So this morning we're in the Key West Cemetery. This 19-acre cemetery has about 100,000 people interred in it, which is a little over 3 times the amount of residents that are even on Key West. It was established here in 1847 after the hurricane of 1846 washed away the bodies of those that were buried in it before, some even being lodged up in trees. It was, as you can imagine. So they moved it over to here on this hill. It's 16 feet above sea level, making it the highest point on the island. The people interred here echo the island's diversity. Bahamian mariners, Cuban cigar makers, millionaires and paupers, Catholics, Protestants, Jews, people of all races, Spanish-American war veterans, soldiers, and civilians. On February 15, 1898, the U.S. Maine blew up in Havana Harbor, killing some 260 American sailors. This disaster led the U.S. to declare war on Spain. Some 24 of those casualties are buried in this plot, as well as other Spanish-American war veterans. Civil War era markers line the perimeter of the fence. Veterans of other wars were interred here, along with 2 British airmen, 1 Brazilian sailor, a woman, a baby, and 5 African-American Civil War soldiers.
Ellen Mallory came to Key West in 1823 as one of the first women settlers. Later, she ran the town's only boarding house, the Coconut Grove. During yellow fever outbreak, she served as a nurse. Her son, Stephen Mallory, became the U.S. Senator and Secretary of the Confederate Navy.
So the Harvey family plot has C.B. Harvey, who was served as the mayor of Key West, and his wife, Wilhelmina Harvey, who served as the first woman juror in Key West and was elected to the school board and the county commission. Her honorary title, Admiral, Conch Republic Navy, is inscribed on the bottom.
Throughout the island of Key West, you'll see several homes marked Curry homes. This is the grave of William Curry. He arrived in Key West in 1847 from the Green Turtle Cay in the Bahamas. He made his fortune through a variety of mercantile activities, becoming Florida's first ever millionaire. You'll see several other notable Curry graves in the area. Sandy Cornish fiercely defended his status as a free man. He mutilated his body to render himself useless as a slave. He came to Key West, where he had a bountiful orchard.
This is the grave of Walter C. Maloney. He was a staunch Union supporter whose son fought for the Confederacy, and his 1876 City Hall dedication speech was published as Key West First History, a sketch of Key West, Florida. He also served as mayor of Key West, and his great-great-grandson salvaged a ballast stone from the Isaac Allerton and had it engraved as a gravestone for his ancestor. The unusual brick crypt featuring gabled roofs and arches was reminiscent of New Orleans cemetery architecture. A Cuban family reportedly built the structure following the death of a son. John Wallace Mitchell came from New Bedford, Massachusetts to help build Flagler's Overseas Railroad. Dr. Daniel Whitehurst is the owner of this burial plot, and he worked with Dr. Samuel Mudd during the yellow fever epidemic at Fort Jefferson in the Dry Tortugas. Dr. Frederick Whedon attended Chief Osceola and befriended him. Upon Osceola's death, he removed his head, which eventually was donated to the New York University Medical School and was later destroyed by fire. Somewhere in these vaults is the grave of Kermit Shine Forbes, who was a sparring partner for Ernest Hemingway during the 1930s. He also served in the Army during World War II. Joseph Yates Porter studied medicine in Philadelphia and served as an Army doctor at Fort Jefferson. He later served as Florida's first public health officer and was instrumental in establishing hospitals during the yellow fever epidemics. This is Sloppy Joe Russell. He was Key West's best-known barkeep and Ernest Hemingway's fishing guide. He's also the owner of Sloppy Joe's, the bar downtown. The original location was where Captain Tony's is located now, but when they raised his rent, he got Ernest Hemingway and the other bar patrons to pick up everything and move down to its current location. This small headstone at the back of the cemetery is for Manuel Cabeza. He was known as El Ileño, the Islander. He fought in World War I and then settled in Key West. His relationship with a mulatto woman provoked the ire of the KKK, who tarred and feathered him. In retaliation, Cabeza shot and killed one of his persecutors on Duval Street on Christmas Eve, 1921. The next day, a posse removed Cabeza from jail, lynched, and shot him. Here lies B.P. Pearl Roberts. Local hypochondriac, had the last word with her marker, "I told you I was sick." And also Gloria M. Russell. "I'm just resting my eyes." Piedad, hopefully I pronounced that right, Piedad de Ayala was the daughter of an executed Cuban revolutionary, the writer of the Cuban national anthem. She was sentenced into exile on the north coast of Africa and was permitted by a humane Spanish ship captain to disembark in New York. Reunited there with her family, together they immigrated to Key West. She was buried next to her husband Gabriel, also a Cuban revolutionary. The monument maker, George Clark of Jacksonville, signed the base. Perhaps the most delicately carved angel in the graveyard, a noteworthy example of Victorian statuary. Senator John Maloney Spotswood was a longtime friend of President Harry Truman, and he founded Key West's first radio station, WKWF, and established Cablevision, one of the first cable television systems in the country. He served as sheriff for 4 terms and state senator for 4 terms. Frank Booth was a member of Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders and participated in the dangerous landings at Daiquiri and other battles throughout Cuba. One of the most prominent cigar manufacturing families in Key West, the Gattos stayed in business for half a century. The factory was restored and converted into office space and still stands at 1100 Symington Street. After the death of Mercedes Gatto, the family home in Virginia and White Streets became a charity hospital named for her. While we were unsuccessful in finding his grave, the grave of Willard Antonio Gomez, he was a rum runner during Prohibition and smuggled liquor from Cuba. He was Ernest Hemingway's principal source of material for the novel To Have and to Have Not. Little is known about this unusual memorial stone depicting a naked, bound woman. Smaller footstones repeat the same motif. The story of the Figueredo and Cepedas families is the story of the Cuban 10 Years' War. A family member was known to have sewn the first Cuban national flag. This monument was erected in 1892 to honor those who died attempting to free Cuba from Spain during the 10 Years' War. The central obelisk commemorates battles, while the upright tables at each corner list fallen soldiers. The revolutionary cause finally succeeded in 1898.